Thank you so much, Ashutosh Sharma, Chief General Manager, Development Chief General Manager, International Financial Services Centers Authority, GIFT City. We'll have a quick fireside chat and then inviting everyone for high tea outside. Requesting you all to stay for just another couple of minutes. Thank you very, very much. Though the recordings will be shared with everybody as well.
Okay, we're going to get down to our fireside chat, which has been a little bit delayed, but I'm happy to see that aviation finance is last on the agenda of PhD Chambers of Commerce and Industry. In fact, when
It
I
was the most
joined,
important one, ma'am. Sorry.
I agree. When I joined Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Civil Aviation in 2017, and I was given my assignment, I looked at the assignments that were there for my colleagues as well. I couldn't find two items on the allocated to anybody in the ministry. One was aviation finance, and the second was MRO. So within 2 weeks, those items came to me for filling the gap. Anyway, on aviation finance, I'm just going to get down straight into the matter. We've heard how airlines are paying the price for, and I'm going to be blunt, for MRO work being done outside the country, whether by power by the hour, or through any other means. It's because we haven't done the capacity building that was essential as we were adding aircraft. On the contrary, we had engine MRO capacity with AIESL, and sometime when the LEAP engines came in, it's at that stage that the country started going out to look for MRO work. And I'm just going to add one more thought, which is that now from the gift city, when aircraft are being brought into India, I would like the regulator to mandate that the manuals come along with the aircraft which is being brought in. Today, and I believe earlier also, the airline always used to get the manuals, which they would then share with whichever organization they had contracted for doing the MRO work. I'm sure manuals are being shared otherwise also with MRO organizations, because I can't imagine how a Lufthansa Technique or a ST or a Turkish Tech or anyone else, or Air France even, how they are managing to do the MRO work for Indian Airlines without having the manuals with them. So clearly, if the Indian MROs are not getting the manuals, it is up to the regulator to provide them. And GIFT City, which is becoming a big hub, hopefully, in the shortest possible time for aircraft financing and leasing, I'm sure that Ashutosh will take that with him. I'm going to start with him because he's got a flight to catch, and since we are somewhat delayed in starting. So, when we looked to create aircraft leasing and financing from GIFT City, we had found it to be existential for India. We had found it to be strategic for India. We had also recognized the way Dublin and other hubs had been evolved. Dublin, for instance, GPA was the first leasing company set up in 1975, And it was a partnership of Aer Lingus, Guinness Peat, which was a financing firm out of London, and one ex-employee of Aer Lingus, Tony Ryan, who then went on to become CEO of Ryanair. So it was a marriage that took place between the financier and an airline, which then ended up creating the first aircraft leasing company in the world. In the Gift City, this has not happened as yet. Do you think that given the vision with which Gift City had been conceptualized, those who conceived of it, including myself, we were wrong? By the way, I'm chairperson of the Standing Committee on Finance. He's a member of my committee, so is he a member of committee, and I thank PhD for giving me this opportunity to grill my members.
And we'll be honest, it's speak truth, we're not going to be influenced by our chairperson.
Chairperson job is to make it happen though. So, and thanks a lot. I think Vandaji, those who don't know, Vandaji certainly came out with the Raftar report. So when at IFSC, I picked up that Raftar report, and then we worked on aircraft leasing. So certainly it's a continuation that we are taking in the policy making. And yes, ma'am, we were rightly said that Dublin, the way they started, the way they evolved the ecosystem out of one company, the entire talent ecosystem has come up. The reason, there are many reasons that probably made Dublin what made Dublin today in terms of leasing terms. I think whether it's about financing, whether it's about double tax treaties, whether it's about legal, you can say perception of that jurisdiction, and the overall ecosystem. I think in IFSC, the way we are looking at where we stand. So IFSC, maybe it's not appropriate to compare with Dublin today. It's almost half a century that Dublin has seen. And IFSC regulation came out in 2021. So we are 3-year-old in that terms. But we have seen in IFSC so far is you started seeing a journey. And I always call some of the first mover as risk capital. And Vishokji was one of the first mover. I call him that he took the step to show courage to get into this jurisdiction and get in. So I think what's happening in GIFT right now is that typically you see that in a country regulation, it helps the existing players, the mega players, because they have the machinery to follow the regulations. What we are trying to do in GIFT is kind of enabling the innovation, enabling the first generation capital to establish the leasing companies. We need not necessarily follow the model of Dublin because the ecosystem in Dublin and India are very, very different. The cost of capital is very, very different. Availability of capital is very, very different. I think unlike Dublin, which is in Europe, which has the availability of capital, availability of talent in one place, what IFSC has is Indian capital, which is rupee. IFSC is foreign currency capital. So cost of capital of foreign currency is high in cost. Now when it comes to airlines, India again, we are seeing airlines, Indigo, Air India, they have established their leasing companies in IFSC today. And both of these airlines together in last 1 year or so, they have already done around 10 plus aircrafts, around more than $1 billion of leasing from IFSC. You have seen leasing of wide body aircrafts, narrow body aircrafts, ATRs. So you have seen wide bodies. I think this is just a step in the right direction. What we require is probably a participation of right capital, whether it has to come from domestic, whether it's come from overseas. So we're taking corrective steps in those ecosystems right now.
I'm going to ask you 2 more questions before, and I'm going to let the others also answer these questions, which I'm asking the regulator. I'm also going to let the others answer these questions, which I'm asking the regulator. I'm just a little anxious that Ashutosh has to leave, so I'm sort of focusing all my questions. You have some time. Okay, so then let me ask the first lessor in Gift City. In your view, we had the Dublin model, which is, as Ashutosh has said, it is predicated upon a large number of BIPAs, bilateral investment protection agreements, which provide for the liberal tax regime or essential, key essentials. We don't have that. We have gone for a different model. We have gone for a place which is already allows for concentration of capital which is needed. We have allowed for a number of tax concessions, key tax concessions, which when our committee was doing the report, we found that the all-in cost of leasing out of Gift City was cheaper than a Dublin, than also a Singapore, than also a Dubai, a Hong Kong. We did an examination across the board. Where do you feel the vision and the growth that we are now seeing, even though 3 years, 4 years, with COVID period causing a wrinkle, where do you think we now need to focus on?
Good evening. Just give a small, quick background of the ILFC, how the leasing started. The Rupee Raftar came. I met Ms. Vandana, I think September 20 during the COVID. We have some requirements of helicopter, ma'am. We are ready to come bite the bullet. Let's start the business. And to be very honest, I thought it will take a long time, so we are talking. Within 3 months, less than 3 months with VC and everything we have done, met with the stakeholder. GO was issued. Then I went to IFCA to meet Mr. Ashutosh, that time chairperson was there, Mr. Injit and his team. And they cleared regulation in 2 days. Actually, I was caught off guard. They cleared regulation in 2 days. We had a meeting on 15th February, 17th and 19th. They have published it. And it was such a fast process. We keep blaming, I think, that out of time, the system and bureaucracy. But we work together. So we have an open mind, commitment to do the things move very fast. And we set up our first leasing company on 21st March. So if you look from October to 21st March, I think not any single industry, new system has set up in India. We bought our first helicopter in April. We have ordered in July, got a delivery in December, and it's operational. A lot of time we start always compare India with Dublin, what happened in Dublin. I just want to share the two stories. We have a mobile telephony. We were one of the last to start mobile telephony in India compared to the West in America in 95. Between 95 2000, all mobile company was struggling. We have some basic policy structural change, and I think within 10 years we become the second largest market in the world. Look in aviation, what happened. We started literally 91, deregulation, when all the taxi came, we had that dull period. 2003 and 4, we started aviation. And look for the next 10 years. We are the third largest market in the world, and we're still exploding, we are not touching. So when we compare the Dublin, yes, we started late after 20 or 30 years. Give us some time. We are just 3-year-old. And we are in the stage we have reached, I think in India have reached, where we need not to copy the different model what happened. All over the world, people for the last 30 years, I think when the American Express started the credit card from the postal system, they created a credit card, everybody forwarded credit cards. In India, the fintech system has changed the world, the banking and distribution is done. It's a totally different. So when we had Chintan Shivar, I think May, we're still working on that. We are not going to follow what Dublin has done and what everybody else done. We are developing in our own model, and which is going to be much different. We're going to see the result in the next 5-10 years, and it may be much different what we have seen, and I'm sure it's going to the same level what we have seen in mobile telephony and what we have seen in aviation here. The second thing, India, the Dublin, one of the reasons they have so much DTA and everything, because they don't have themselves a domestic market. India has a huge capital market. Even somebody wants to de-risk geographical distribution, still we have a huge market in India, and Gift City makes a lot of difference. I am focused on helicopters, small aircrafts, regional aircrafts, commuter aircrafts, and training aircraft, which is the area ministers have talked in the morning. We are looking to connect cities which have no tier now, second, 3 tiers, and where the steps come in. Because of Gift City, we have been able to get a new startup, regional airlines. They have connected more than 40-45 stations which were never connected. He mentioned the Sindhugarh. And the Sindhugarh started because of the aircraft they were able to access from the Gift City. We have Sindhugarh. And we have training schools. We have got 20 training schools approved. Some started. We have leased some aircraft to training school. They are coming up. We are working on the seaplane also. So GIFT City has contributed a lot thing. As Madam has mentioned, the cost, when we have to see the overall cost. What Mindra Madam mentioned is very, very important in aviation. Finance is the bottom. Everybody wants to run airlines, everything without running what is an ROI. So that's become a challenge. So if you look at leasing cost is just not a lease rental MR. Leasing cost have a legal fee, which is also incorporated. A typical UK law, an English law legal fee, a single lease contract is between $200,000 to $300,000, which I paid in India 15 lakhs. Since they are the small value items, I don't have to take a reinsurance. And a small 3 million helicopter, I am saving at 10 lakhs a year on the reinsurance fee. So my repossession cost is very low. My repossession cost in life during the lease audits, during the lease operation, the management cost is very low. Everything built in the lease rentals. And that was a situation happened. I have leased an aircraft. It was defaulted. We repossessed and we redeploy within India. Same VT registration. I don't have to do a Cayman registration, everything. My cost of transition is very low. We do have a challenge. We don't have a demo flight option in India. But the way ministry and all the support system is working, we have created a new CR within 15 days, which gives an option how to create the demo flights for customers. Now with that, we have repossessed aircraft, we have a change of operator. I don't have to deregister aircraft. In case of default, I can, as a lessor, repossess aircraft and redeploy. I keep maintaining my certificate of airworthiness. The transition from the 3 months can come down less than 10 days. So GIFT City has a lot of opportunity, and it was one of the good initiative, and I believe is going to change the Indian aviation. As such, the railways changed in the way back in 2000. We got a remote connectivity, people going to stay with internet. You don't have a space isolation. With e-commerce, you can deliver everything. The only thing is how you move people to the last point. So aviation is going to play that role, is going to penetrate to hinterland, I think, and GIFT City is going to make a major contribution in that.
So Vishok, I'm very happy to hear about the positive story from you, but something that I hear from the naysayers is that in India, we have not passed the Cape Town Convention. We have not passed domestic legislation to replicate India's commitments under the Cape Town Convention. I'm going to turn to our young lawyer, Salil. He's come back.
I just want to, ma'am, add in this one, because we keep listening Cape Town issue in India. It will not good to name the countries, but there's a big Latin American country, very vibrant aviation industry. To repossess aircraft, it is worse than India.
Yes.
I gone to 6 to 9 months, we took it. We have a country in the Gulf, we have to repossess aircraft, and we know how we got 4 aircrafts. So sometimes
it took Jet Airways how many years to repossess from the Netherlands one aircraft? But did Netherlands rate or risk go up? It didn't.
So what happening now? Nowhere in the world there is a backstop for the outstanding payment. One thing is different, they don't allow to build up. Like if you fly in Eurocontrol, if you are not paid 6 years back also, they can hold your aircrafts. For Indian lessor, they put a 3 months. So we have a backstop of 3 months. Second thing, with the GIFT City, we have a GST in the forward mechanism. So I don't have any exposure of GST, because a lot of time the lessor gets stuck when the GST is not paid by the lessee, and we don't able to how much we get it. Like for Go Airways, now their SAP system, everything is shut, go first. We are not able to know how much GST is spending. So that's the whole thing. GIFT City, that is not also issue. Deregistration is a 5-day. 5 working days that happen deregistrations. So technically, if I am leasing it from the GIFT City, absolutely I don't have exposure. In fact, I have a better repossession chances compared to anywhere else in the Cape Town.
I'm just going to turn to Salil with the question on the Cape Town Convention. And by way of background, I'm also going to tell him that I'm usually surprised when I hear that in India, the domestic Cape Town, the law to bring in the provisions under the Cape Town Convention has not yet been passed. Yeah. Now that I understand that this lack of domestic law applies equally whether an Indian airline leases the aircraft out of GIFT City or leases it out of Dublin. Legally, do you feel that we will, one, there is a difference? You can just explain to the audience also the matter of the Cape Town Convention, a little bit about the priority interests, and also explain as to how we can overcome this. Is the early passage of the law the only way out?
Oh, good evening, everyone. So, ma'am, if I can refer to the 3rd October notification that was issued by Ministry of Corporate Affairs during the pendency of Go First litigation. So, it made quite clear that for all the aircraft lease transactions will not be covered under Insolvency and Bankruptcy Act. And Cape Town Convention will get the supremacy over the domestic laws. So, we are more or less, I think, sorted on that end. Cape Town Convention, the Delhi High Court has also stated that it will apply to all the leasing transactions, 60 days period. So the moratorium period, which for a normal bankruptcy transaction is 180 days plus a 90-day extension, is only 60 days for the aviation aircraft leasing transactions. So apart from the 10% OECD discount that we get for the financing under the Cape Town for ratification and having a domestic Cape Town legislation, I think we are almost there. So the lessors are also safeguarded, and lessors are pretty happy now. We see the lessors are still very bullish about the Indian aviation market, and a lot of investments. I mean, with 700 odd aircraft scheduled to come in next 6 years, we have a lot of interest from the lessors.
Thank you. So the regulator would like to add something to this. Are you also getting a similar narrative from the naysayers?
Naysayers, yes, are there. But I think I give some background to when this notification came out. IFSC only worked on this notification, and we tried to create an arbitrage between IFSC and other countries. And we said, okay, provide this exemption from moratorium only for aircraft leased from IFSC. We're trying to create that arbitrage, but rightfully country thought about the country's reputation and came out with a much larger, wider legal outcome there. So see, I think the way we are engaging with the lessors, we heard from them that biggest risk for them is certainly repossession risk, inability to repossess. When we look at Cape Town Convention talks about lessor, lessee, and the ability to repossess. This is all Cape Town is all about. It gives prudence to the international convention over the local laws when it comes to these three players, right, effectively. It gives you a carve out on the taxation side. So now issue comes that when your lessors are repossessing aircraft from India, they will have to still make good the taxation. I had a discussion with a lot of stakeholders, and they told that when it comes to taxation, their opinion is very clear that Cape Town Convention also does not provide you the carve out from the local taxation. So that is there.
Correct.
Now, Salil has rightly mentioned that we have already provided for the moratorium. That provides them a carve out. However, I think where they are showing concern is that we have given a carve out from the moratorium under NCLT. In this particular regulation, it is under local law. What they are saying is Cape Town Convention is more of an international convention. So you have to still ratify that treaty, bring out that treaty so that it becomes more internationally aligned. Right now, their concern is that unless CTC comes out, this can be subject to interpretation of the specific courts in which this proceeding may go. That is one thing. But I think one point which Vishokji has rightly mentioned is that when you think of gift, when you think of leasing, you think of legal, you think of GST. In GST perspective, the risk is less because it's on a reverse charge mechanism, forward charge mechanism instead of reverse. So effectively, we always tell them that you have a better asset quality, you have a cost of fund probably what is available globally. Legally, we are almost there. I think question should be then, what is holding them back? I think what is holding the lessors back is they say that they want some established player to come there. Now, who is that some established player? I think typically in industry, we saw this in semiconductor, we saw this in every industry, where effectively some sovereign has to come out as an anchor. And they had to create that entity which can provide support to the ecosystem, whether it's sovereign fund, whether it's sovereign capital, whether it's the marry of sovereign and the local capital, whether it's marry of sovereign and foreign capital. I think we need to think more in that direction rather than thinking about Cape Town Convention will come. But I think, in my personal opinion, Cape Town Convention will just be parity. Cape Town Convention will provide them to offshore lessor what it will provide to gift IFSC lessor. It will not give a delta to gift.
Yeah. So there is no delta, and whatever is the legal risk involved, it will be, should be equally priced, whether the aircraft is being leased out of Gift City or it's being leased out from a Dublin or a Singapore.
Right.
That's my understanding. So it's actually a level playing field.
Yes.
The absence of a Cape Town Convention Act here.
Like, ma'am, one more thing to add. So Gift City lessors have been allowed to, so they can, once they have repossessed or the lease has terminated, they can have the aircraft registered in their own name,
Yes,
which is which the other lessors won't have.
will
So
not
that's
have.
an advantage to them, so they don't have to go through the deregistration process and get the import of the aircraft. So that's very cost-effective measure for
In
them.
fact, I have Sharad here because of this reason. The fact that the aircraft stays in India or with an India registered lessor should benefit the MRO sector to provide all the services that are being attached to leasing of aircraft, which are being done out of centers abroad, such as Dublin or Singapore. I'm going to ask Vishok also to address this matter, since he has studied it. Do you want Vishok to go first?
I think it's not.
Okay, okay.
So,
No.
see, when in
I
case
brought
of-
him in at the last minute because I thought that MRO has got enough of bashing. And in fact, I am going to make a remark to Ashutosh that when I heard the statistic that 80% of MRO alone is being done in India, and we're just doing the line and the base, airframes. We don't go down into the engines and the components. I was going to ask Ashutosh whether by bringing in airlines as entities there, our objective is only lease in, lease out. But that's going to be my only lease in, lease out, which is, 10% or 20% of the aircraft leasing market, and we're not going to do the rest. I'm not asking you to answer yet. I want Vishok to answer first the MRO linkage.
We have taken, we are managing for a bank 2777 in Jet Airways. When they went down, we repossessed it, get it registered into Cayman. Now, Air India has taken approval for airframe, so we have done airframe from Air India for recovery of one aircraft. But all component has to be come with the FA tag. Air India had a all facility like for heat exchanger, it just has to be cleaned, costed me $30,000 to $40,000, and I paid more than $100,000 for transportation of the huge size of these things. So there are a lot of components, and roughly for recovery of one aircraft, I spent on the component checks because the aircraft was grounded for 2 years, close to $500,000, which could have been done less than $300,000 after I done because most of them was just a bench check. Because it was registered outside, we got stuck. As I mentioned, I have taken a 2 ATRs, I repossessed it, so all the components, everything was repaired. India, it was in VT registration. So now going forward also, in case aircraft is leased from India, even you repossess and we are doing a transition, all the redelivery checks and component checks, everything is still done by a lot of Indian shops. So it brings a lot of business for Indian MROs. It reduced the cost also significantly. And the transportation cost and everything, if we are talking of total cost of repositions, it becomes much less.
I think there is a difference there. Today, YASA is sort of a universal benchmark because all countries recognize any aircraft or any component certified in a YASA approved shop as serviceable in their system. Now, let us say an aircraft has come with X Airlines through the Gift City, through an Indian leasing company. So I'm just assuming that now it's under an Indian leasing company. And hence, Indian DGCA should be allowed as an acceptable benchmark. Now, let us talk from leasing company's viewpoint. Today, the aircraft is in India, flying with X Airlines. Let us say after X Airlines lease returns it, maybe it goes to Y Airlines in India, it remains within India. But let us say there is no taker for that aircraft in India and you have to send the aircraft abroad. In case it is carrying Indian DGCA tag throughout, that will become an issue for you to send it to any country which does not recognize DGCA of India. Yeah.
First thing, to just ferry out this aircraft, I need to get all imported components, and we have paid so much freight and everything.
Right.
In case it would have been in Indian registration, I could have taken a ferry permit from India, ferried it out aircraft, and a lot of component, except the some critical component, people do accept the other tax based on that. So it's not only they need to have each and every OCCM item or hard time item. So many critical, rest of them they could have taken that. So at least it saved the time and recovery of the aircraft. Yes, they have to retax some time to redeploy aircraft, but still the cost would be much less compared to what they do after deregistration.
I will also add one more thought, which with MROs I have always taken up. EASA and FAA have a mutual recognition agreement on MRO, both the product, the process, and the certifications, right? India's DGCA's cars for MRO virtually mirror EASA's cars, EASA's setup.
Right.
What prevents the government of India from discussing with EASA and FAA and saying that because the two of you recognize each other's processes, certifications, products, India's DGCA certified processes should also be accepted. And our Car 145, Car 147 are virtually word to word EASA's relevant cars, right? So to that extent, I think for the IFSC authority, there is a notion that I would give to them that in order to promote MRO coming through GIFT City along with the leased and otherwise financed aircraft into India, that this thought should also be given, because India has been positive. As you said, that when we needed to go with the regulation for the bankruptcy code, we didn't do it only for GIFT City. We said, no, we will do it pan-India as well, because all our airlines should benefit regardless of where they're getting the aircraft from. This is in the same vein to make it positive so that irrespective of where you're getting the leased aircraft from, the DGCA's certification should be deemed to be on par with the EASA certification. This I'm just placing so that all of us can take it up further
Maybe one more
with the
thought.
authorities.
Maybe one more thought.
One more, tell me.
One more thought.
Tell me.
Like Cayman Islands.
Okay.
It has its own regulatory authority.
Huh.
And anything accepted by the Cayman authority is recognized all over.
Yeah, yeah.
So let us say GIFT City has its own aviation regulatory authority, which is cross-certifying a DGC authority.
Why do we need a teacher on a regulator?
It just becomes an internationally acceptable authority.
Well, what
There,
if we...
just
what
one
if,
thought, one
okay,
thought.
what if we made IFSC authority
Right, right. Why not? Why not? Why
the
not?
certifier for aircraft which are coming out of GIFT City?
Right.
Powerful thought. It's just that, see, when we started off as a financial regulator.
Why not?
And we started to regulate the banks and finance companies and capital market. When we verged into aircraft leasing, then we verged into ship leasing, then we went into the universities. While giving due respect to DGC and DG Shipping by saying that, okay, you are the regulator here. It requires a lot of changes, probably at the act level, but it's a powerful thought in the long-term perspective. If you, so you need to have different legal codes, you need to have different ecosystems, probably in the long term. Yes.
Okay, so let me ask you now the question that I was asking, which is, or let me start with Vishok first. Has the market for lessors and asset managers in GIFT City or out of GIFT City been impacted by the major airlines of India setting up their own financing entities and therefore capturing their entire order book through their financing entities out of GIFT City? Is my question clear?
Yeah, personally, Viman, because we are different segment, and I don't think that Tata is going to come into the commuter helicopter market. So we still
You
little.
don't have to answer from your perspective.
No,
huh?
I'm just talking. I'm just
Lessor
joking.
perspective.
See, as everybody's mentioned from the morning, the market is too big, and we have a big pie, so everybody can in cake. Everybody can have a pie in cake. The biggest advantage happened with Air India and Indigo is coming in GIFT City. It's brought a lot of visibility. It's going to be a lot of traction from the financial, a lot of stability, which we could have never done that volume and size. And the way the world moves, God knows, tomorrow they will become, and the way they have a demand of aircraft, both Indigo and Air India, they cannot support from their own leasing company. They do some part leasing, they're going to do off leasing. But once their company become big, become strong, because they have a captive customer of both airlines, they established as a leasing company, they may decide to heave off, and that become a pure leasing company supporting not only in Tata and Indigo, they're supporting all over the world. The way it is started.
I'm going to ask the regulator a question, that are these airline-backed GIFT City entities, financing entities, do they have a limitation on financing aircraft of other airlines? Or can they do it only for their captive use?
It's like what is theoretically possible, what practically can happen. Will Tata Airlines subsidiary will like to lease aircraft to Indigo? There's certainly not many airlines right now.
I don't mean only within India, huh?
Outside. So if you ask
Outside.
technically, they are enabled. They can do lease in India, they can do outside India, they can do third parties, they can do everything. They can become a global leasing company as per what we have permitted them to be. But I will address your first question first. I think your first question is how will it impact the other lessors? See, I think what they have done. Today the portfolio of airline companies is largely operating lease. Right? Finance lease is very less for them right now. And the capital that is required by airlines for their current order book is around $225 billion, the huge capital. Now when you think, because the interest rates are moving the way they are moving because of the situation in the global markets, airlines have decided that they should also have some assets on their book. Why they should pay at such a high cost interest rate, right now. So they are going into some finance lease. Now, finance lease, strategically, what we, our government of India, has taken a position is that India used to have a 5% withholding tax from anywhere in the world earlier. And this was kept discounted for a while till last year. And last year, India switched off the discounted withholding tax from anywhere in the globe. And we said, okay, whatever India tax rate applies, 20% withholding tax, that will apply. What means that if finance lease or the loan taken by a company from anywhere in the world, they will have to pay 20% withholding tax. But from gift, it is nil. So it's advantageous. So airlines, certainly for finance lease, gift FSC is the strategic location for them. Now, finance lease will happen only from gift. I'm very confident about it. I have no two thoughts about it. Now, question is, what about operating lease? Will this company do operating lease for captive units? Again, can there be structure where they lease in from offshore operating lessors and then lease into their captive? I personally, I'm not talking about IFSC, but I personally am not in favor of that, because I think that is will be a strategic mistake for IFSCA, because if you permit the lease in, lease out of operating lease, then operating lessors may not decide to move into gift IFSC. So that is something that we need to probably put a balanced approach and decide what should be permitted, what should not be permitted. At the same time, we have to encourage the industry to get the right model in. When we started with the banking ecosystem, when the first banks came here, initially banks came here with a very small setup, 3, 4, 5 people. Right? When I came to IFSC, there were 13 banks, and their total capacity of bank employees across 13 banks was 40. And at that time, we looked at the models and we took an audit and we decided that this is not the way the business should happen. And subsequently, this capacity has increased to 400 people in the last 3 years, because you need to take some prudent steps about how the model should come. it is not only about plain vanilla setting up the regulation and let it happen the way it is going to happen. We have to nurture. These are initial steps. So we have to encourage the foreign lessors. But as Vishokji rightly mentioned, that when in Air India came, when Indigo came, Air India deal of wide body aircraft, that 6 aircraft that they brought, it's a very big deal. That deal, I remember it got Deal of the Year award that day at a global platform. And people took notice of that. When they took notice of that, they understood what is the legal structuring, what is the legal documentation done, who are the right stakeholders to get involved. That helped them to get financier for the next deal. The more banks came into that deal. Now when Indigo did it, that legwork was done. Now more people are able to, the market is evolving, market is being created, visibility has been created. The ecosystem is coming together. This is how ecosystem develops, step by step. You need to put the enabling players there. So I think whether Air India and Indigo coming there will prohibit or inhibit the lessor will literally be decided by how the regulator, how the industry work towards the models here onwards.
So assuming that we have taken a step-by-step approach, we have allowed our airlines to set up their financing entities. Nobody is prevented. The two major ones have already done it. I think Akasa is as yet not there as a leasing entity. So they are the other airline with the large... Huh? Fly 91 has done it. No.
No, leasing has
more
happened
into
for...
PLB, so they don't
They're
not
need it.
looking for
Correct.
financing at this
So
moment.
we have gone with a step-by-step approach. Now, I had one question to you is, have the other jurisdictions, including a Singapore or a Tianjin or a Dublin, the airlines taken their own financing companies as stepping stones to test the market? Second question is, I gave the example. Ashutosh says we need a foreign lessor to be attached in the gift city. I have a slightly different perspective because I gave the example of Dublin. What was Dublin? It was Aer Lingus, which was an airline, attached to a financing company, the Guinness Peat, and that was sufficient to get the leasing ecosystem going. Their joint venture was the leasing entity. So do we really need a lessor? Would you like to address from your experience out
Yes,
of...
ma'am, if I am talking about Tianjin, so Tianjin requires that the lessor should incorporate an entity in Tianjin.
Okay.
So they don't allow airlines to have their own FT there.
Okay.
So then you need an entity incorporated by the lessor. But in India, we have already allowed airlines to do it. But
lessors?
And lessors, but we haven't seen any big lessors coming to it. So I think for the operating leases, perhaps, as Ashutosh sir mentioned, we need to have a slightly different structure where we'll require a lessor to incorporate an entity, which I think personally from lessor's perspective also will make sense, because if you are subleasing it, you will want to lease it from your entity rather than having it from the airline's entity.
Okay. But if you have a joint venture in the gift city, so I'm an airline in India, I have a joint venture in the gift city, which is myself plus a financier attached to my gift city entity. Do I need somebody else?
No, I think the only missing link in India is the banks, financing. So we haven't seen any banks setting up their own leasing entity. Whereas if you see about China, so I mean the top 5 Chinese banks have their own leasing arms. Even for Japan, SMBC has its own leasing arm. So, and for if you see about European banks, they are financing it through ECA or Exim. American banks are doing it through Exim financing. But we haven't seen any big Indian bank getting into aircraft leasing. So that's the missing link from my end.
Ma'am, can I put a comment to it and make my last comment? Because 8:45 is the flight.
One question I'm going to ask you. First
Okay.
you give your
So-
comment, then I'm going to ask
So
you.
see, I think what has happened in Labuan, what has happened in Tianjin, what has happened in other jurisdictions where they have failed is that they have promoted lease in, lease out model. If you permit the operating lease to happen through lease in, lease out model, it means that asset ownership will not come into jurisdiction, which means that financing capability will not come into jurisdiction, which means it will just become a conduit to have a tax efficient and tax neutral jurisdiction in which you are not exposed to DTA risk. I think that is not what a jurisdiction should strive towards. Jurisdiction should strive toward bringing the capacities and capabilities. Ownership. Ownership will come when the holding entities will come into gift. If airline become the lease in, lease out, the ownership will still stay outside. What you need for ownership is the company which has a big balance sheet, which has the capacity to keep the asset in their book, which has the capacity to get financing as competitive cost. Today, airlines will probably give a leg and arm to get 2 or 3 basis point off in their pricing. That is how competitive this market is. And this is where cost of fund plays a big role. Cost of fund of Indian financiers is not at par with foreign financiers, considering sovereign rating. You need participation from global investors, both on debt side as well as on capital side. This is an international asset. This is the global industry. This is not Indian industry. Where we need to put Indian interest in place is the ownership. We need to create an anchor investor, anchor leasing company in India, which can bring a strategic depth of the capacity holding in India. That is okay, but we cannot provide a $225 billion from that strategic entity. We need to bring the foreign ownership also into jurisdiction. So we need to solve for the foreign lessors also to come here, foreign financiers to come into ecosystem.
Foreign financiers or foreign lessors?
Both, ma'am. Both, ma'am.
Back.
I think finance leasing need the foreign financiers. And for example, the Air India deal that happened. In that deal, while they formed the Hadley SPV outside, but financing was done by MUFG, Japanese bank, in the GIFT IFC. So that we have brought the financiers here. But will that financier finance a new company formed in IFSC? Is something that we need to test.
Okay. So on the financing issue, Government of India has been mulling over setting up a sovereign wealth fund. Does the IFSC authority feel that it can engage with the Government of India to get that sovereign wealth fund to also part finance aviation or aircraft leasing and financing? I'm saying this because when our committee had done the evaluation, at that time we had assessed that any equity participant in aircraft lease financing through GIFT City will have a return which was 3.2% higher than if that same equity financier was coming out of an Ireland or a London or a Singapore. So if Government of India does contribute through this sovereign fund a certain amount of equity for aircraft financing, and the banks come up with the rest of the debt capital, it doesn't have to be Indian banks alone. It would be very nice if the Indian banks also come in, and I think some of them are mulling on the matter, both SBI and HDFC. We've been discussing with them, and they are on the verge of coming out and saying yes. They've been on the verge for a little while, but let's hope that they take their call as quickly as our regulator takes the call. What do you think?
No, ma'am, on the fund side, I saw that news in the media that about the sovereign fund being established in IFSC. IFSC has mooted that point to various sections of government for different sectors. I think what we require in shipping is India is in a situation where Indian PSUs, which are largest importer, they are dependent on foreign ships. They are paying to the foreign ship. And Indian shipyards are operating on under capacities unless this recent defense boom came up. So we are trying to triangulate and say that can we have a ship leasing company in IFSC, which can be anchored with a sovereign fund in IFSC, and this can provide triangulation with the demand, supply, and leasing and financing. We are trying to work on some of these solutions. Ministry of Shipping is looking in those solutions. Similar proposal has been put to Ministry of Civil Aviation as well. They should anchor some of those things. But something that government has to mull over, because so far India never had a sovereign fund going outside. India has a sovereign fund manager, NIIF, which has been bringing the sovereign investors in global jurisdiction to invest into India. That they have an INR balance sheet. So this will be first time. So it's a strategic decision. Probably it's a longer decision for government.
Why should we worry about investing outside? Our companies are going out and investing in other countries.
I'm not saying, ma'am, that we need to worry about. I'm just saying that it's a different discussion than the status quo. Probably something that government has to mull over. So this point is already have been put to their table, to ministry, respective ministries.
Okay, that's a very positive thought going forward. I'm I'm conscious that we have hit a very late hour already. We started late, otherwise we would have explained a little bit about what the Gift City initiative was all about, so that the discussion among the experts was not gobbledygook to some of our bright youngsters who may not have read the Gift City initiative. But just to conclude by saying that India's order book today is the world's third largest. In the Asia-Pac region, we are the leading light. Asia-Pac, excluding China, accounts for more than 36% of the aircraft to be brought into the country. USA accounts for 21%, all of Europe accounts for 17%, so you can understand to what degree this is such a weighty issue which needs to be addressed. Money makes the world go round, and I think for our airlines, we have put in a Gift City initiative, which in all terms, equity financing cost, all-in costs, regulatory ease, regulatory benefits, everything is better out of Gift City than out of any other jurisdiction. Pardon? It is. So we have anticipated your big orders and therefore in advance put in a system which helps. We're not being reactive, but we are being proactive in this matter. And I would like the Indian aviation ecosystem to take the benefit of the Gift City initiative. And this includes simulators, this includes ground handling equipment, and I must mention that ships are doing better than the aviation finance. I chaired that initiative as well, and it came later, but I think aviation, propelled by or powered by jets, will do much better than ships which are not powered by jet engines, right? So let's hope for the best, and all the best to the regulator, to the MRO, to our lessor, and to our bright young lawyer. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for a very interesting discussion, and thank you to the panelists as well. Sorry it was our last one, but for next time this will be the first one. Definitely.
Call it the
Breakfast chat.
fireside chat.
Done, ma'am. So requesting Sanjeev Edwards sir and Dr. Jitendra to please come on stage and felicitate our panelists. Thank you so much for being and spending the whole day with us, and we've learned a lot, and we look after. So thanking Ashutosh Sharma sir for coming all the way. He has a flight on his way back, but thank you so much for coming, sir, and shifting all your meetings. Thank you. Thanking Mr. Vishok Mansingh sir for being a part of our.
I must say that our regulator and IFSC authority is not, it's such a positive regulator. There is no negative
And
component there.
thanking Mr. Salil Arora sir for bringing in the legal perspective. Thank you so very much. So from the handful people, can we have a little bit of an applause for our panelists? Requesting the panel to stand for a group photograph as well. And thank you to Vanda ma'am for moderating this session and really bringing out the best. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thanking Mr. Vishok Mansingh sir. Thank you so much. And to Sharad sir. So let's have a panel photo. Thank you so much, and we look forward to meeting you all in our next session next year. inviting everyone for high tea outside. Please do have something and go, and thank you for your patience and thank you for being here. Thank you so much. Please do have tea. It's outside. Thank you so much.